Sup, I'm David Francisco, a professional wrestler. In fact, check out my videos and highlights and promos and everything on my main channel. And I also have a podcast. I do streams on Twitch. I do all of this here on YouTube. And I had Simon Miller recently in one of the episodes of my podcast where we discussed the differences in wrestling and how the scene is going to be, especially the British wrestling scene, once wrestling comes back after everything that has been happening in the last 12 months. Check it out. Simon Flames, thanks for joining the chat there. I miss wrestling crowds. Hopefully we can get to having shows like before and indie wrestling can thrive. That's an interesting question. Like, what's your prediction? And obviously be honest here. I'm not you don't have to be, if your prediction isn't like a very positive one, you don't have to bring it in. What's how with like this I can't say the word I wanted to try to say, so I'm gonna say something else. With like the huge shifts that like obviously the last year brought to British wrestling, what do you predict is gonna come out of it? Like, what do you think are gonna be some of the challenges and some of the, I know that like it's a super deep question, I'm putting you here on the spot, but let's do this together. Some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that actually this brings.
Well, I think they're one and the same. You know, like a lot of people have been signed up, and as I always say, awesome for them. Who the hell wouldn't? You know, that's what that's what a lot of people do it for. Maybe not everybody. I think some people forget how cool it must be to get some papers or an email through the post, whatever, that says, you know, 3 initials at the top that everyone's recognized their whole life, or even for the last couple of years. I think that's absolutely incredible. But within that, it does create opportunity, right? Because people have to step into those roles. And that's all, you know, I know it sounds really dull, but wrestling is cyclical, and I totally believe it will happen. It's going to take some time. You know, you could argue we had the boom period and now we'll have the quiet period, and eventually it'll pick back up again. And obviously, given that some of the things that did happen, hopefully the industry in general will just be a more accepting and a more safe place. And that in itself should breed more creativity, more characters, more opportunities, and just a happier working environment, which that can only be a benefit. Like, it only can. And, you know, even on a lesser level, I know things go far deeper, but when it was all going on, I know a lot of people mentioned how, some people even said, well, actually, you know what, even being in our clique, what kind of word that is, obviously talk about wrestling, but it's true. You know, we had our own group, and we didn't shun everybody else on purpose. We just felt comfortable doing that, and that has knock-on effects. Even that kind of sort of, you know, surface level stuff, people have now said, well, let's not do that anymore. Let's try and be more inclusive. Yeah. So hopefully it'll just be awesome, right? Hopefully there won't be any of this hazing or bullying in a bad way. Like, you want the fun and stuff like that. But yeah,
the changes backstage, I think. And I think I was talking about this. Maybe it wasn't in public, maybe it was in private, but I'm sure he doesn't mind me sharing this. Like when I was, this was a conversation that I had with like Rex and JJ, and Rex is very big on this, which is the idea that there was a certain, and maybe this is like something maybe only you and I will be able to understand, and the people that have been in a wrestling locker room, just like the politics of navigating it, which in a way is not different from the politics of navigating any company, any profession. Yeah. You know, it's just not, the majority of them are not something that sticks to wrestling, but they're still there. And there's this like, a good friend of mine calls it the fake vet syndrome. And I think that if I like how I say this, and immediately in your mind, some people thought, right? They pop there, right? And I think that everyone will be way less accepting of being treated in a certain way just because someone has fake vet syndrome. And, you know, and this is obviously like, there's the big problematic issues that people will hopefully be more aware. And I know that me personally, I am. And then there's also the less problematic small issues that would kind of slip through the cracks and people just accept it because that's the way it is. And it's not the way it is, and that's a good thing.
Exactly that, and I think that will help everybody. Like, even people, you know, coming in, people that have been around a long time. I hope so. Anyway, there's something I think will be good, especially given, you know, my own experience. Again, I wouldn't have had it any other way. Well, that's not true. I mean, but knowing what I knew coming in, I would have had it another way. But I understood I had to go through this. Like, you know, my first time in a lot of locker rooms were, you know, there's that YouTube asshole.
Yeah, he's using his numbers to try and get ahead of us. Yeah.
Exactly. And didn't know that I'd been training. They don't have to know this. You know, it's not on them. There's no obligation to know that I'd done that. But, you know, I was lucky in the sense because I've immersed myself in wrestling in my life. I knew that was going to happen. I get the respect thing, and I just tried to be as respectful as possible. And again, what I mean by that is that hopefully I did win over a lot of people, which I'm proud of. But maybe for somebody, I'm quite self-assured in my own skin. It doesn't mean that I don't have, down points or, have anxious moments. Of course I do. But I think if that had been somebody else, given it whatever the situation had been, that may have stopped somebody from, it may have been too much for some people. And you don't want that. You don't want talent to be scared off, I suppose, based on things like that. You want it, again, inclusive is the big word. Everyone should be given their shot, given their chance, and some are going to sink and some are going to swim, but it should be on their own merits and not because someone said something that they shouldn't have done. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a bit more like that.
Another thing you mentioned, and I'm very curious about this one because I kind of I'm on the fence on this, which it's the idea that obviously like a lot of the big talent that was there before moved on and they're not going to be in the indie British wrestling indie scene anymore. And that I think that what the scene lost is star power. What I mean by this is like people that you can announce for a show and people are just going to come back to see them because they're stars and people would want to see them, right? Voodoo Rocks, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome. So that's one of them. And in a similar manner, it's the idea that Simon, thank you so much for the follow as well. Appreciate it. If you guys are enjoying, just I've never done this. I've never got like a prompt for people to follow. I'm sorry. Every Monday I do a Francisco Lounge. I get a guest. We watch some wrestling. We have nice chats. If you guys want to join, go ahead. And then you can also see the rest of my content here on Twitch. Would love to have you as followers. Thank you very much. I appreciate you for following as well and following along. As I was saying, in the same token, the idea that you don't have people backstage are really good and people for the guys that are there to wrestle with so that they can learn from, it's like you don't need to, but you need to wrestle people that are better than you so that you can get better. And a lot of the people that are better than us in wrestling have been given the opportunity to sign with big companies and to be able to, like, we're not going to get access to Pete Dunne anymore. Everyone that wrestled Pete Dunne benefit from it,
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's going to be a hindrance. But on the same side, a hindrance. I can't speak this language. But on the same token, it's like, and Pete Dunne is a good example of this. Like, I think Attack is such a great example because basically it's like the guys that Attack, the way like Attack as a company started, they didn't like how wrestling was being done in their area in the UK, the camp shows and the WWE tribute shows and all that. So they just started their own sick wrestling company with the guys that they knew from backyard, right? And I think that's interesting. I think that's like, I wonder if we should, like the guys that are now in the indie scene, push the envelope to be like, no, we can do this. Let's freaking figure this out and do really good professional wrestling.
I think so. I think that's how it should. I think that should be the mantra throughout all of it. Let's just do it. And let's do it the way that we want to do it, right? You're going to butt some heads here and there, but that's just industry and business. But yeah, that should be what. Let's put on a product that we want to put on. Let's put on a product that people want to see, that we want to see, that we enjoy, and just surprise, surprise, I'm saying this, but just sort of spark a wave of positivity throughout the whole thing. And I think that will then shunt on to everybody else as well. It will make people feel good. You'll feel good, and that's why people go and watch wrestling, because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel something, depending on what you're trying to put out there. So, yeah, I think that's a great model to go with. And there are still some great companies out there. They were just super under the radar before, and maybe they can kind of do the same thing. The void that's been left by some of these wrestlers that have been, get called up to the big time. Maybe, in the wake of other companies shutting down, these smaller companies can step up. They've got the experience, can make all the changes, and they can fit into that hole as well. And then it's just going to, who knows if it gets back to where it was, but it doesn't mean you can't have a scene that's not beneficial and it's not teaching people. Because like you say, the best thing I ever did was working with people better than me. And everybody will say that. It's intimidating when you turn up and you find that kind of stuff out, because you're like, oh man, you don't want to be the one to let the side down. But that's the only way you can get better. And you need to put yourself in those uncomfortable positions. But that should be where the uncomfortableness is. And then, in the backstage, it's help, it's feedback, it's criticism. It's just trying to get trying to get everybody up to the next level. Because if you can do that, then the scene in general will benefit as well.